What's poppin', people? It's Dante. Just on Chestnut Street. Beautiful architecture, look at this. I love looking at the buildings as I walk around. It's overwhelming, right? These tall buildings. A lot of the times you feel like you're kind of claustrophobic within these tight spaces. Like, imagine all the space where the cars are. It's taking up the whole city. It's like the sidewalks are so small, and I love Broad Street, Market Street specifically, because the sidewalks are wider. City Hall is wider. There's areas in the city that are better for street photography than others. I mean, the tight spaces can be good, but consider wherever you are and recognize that connection between you and the sidewalk. We're actually having this sort of like wider space. It provides more opportunity to make pictures because of the landscape itself. Where even having the elevation of the art museum actually is a nice place to photograph, because there's different layers and opportunities where you can look up, you can look down. So anything that's more dynamic in terms of the space itself seems to be good for street photography. But you know, variety is key, and to sort of just mix things up is always a good thing. I like walking down Chestnut Street. I like walking around every street. There's something about this street specifically that's way more gritty. It's more grungy than like Walnut, where they have, you know, stores like Lululemon and like fancier places. Here they have like Foot Locker, Five Below and stuff. Five Guys, more food. And yeah, it looks like shops are just starting to open up. Always be early. Get here before the shops open. Sometimes you can see the guys that are like lifting up the sort of garage doors and stuff so that they can make their, like they're getting the day started, and they're lifting up the gates and things. And that's kind of interesting too, because yeah, you can get some more dynamic shots maybe earlier in the morning. Maybe earlier is better, just generally. You know, every day is good. Every hour is good to practice street photography, but there's something about being there before the action begins. Even considering my time in Mumbai, I would get to the fish market before they really started. And yeah, throughout the hour or two that I spent in the fish markets, the sort of speed and the sort of energy would increase over time, where I would always get there at 5 a.m. and wake up super early. And that always allowed me to have the most dynamics in my photography, because you must be on top of the sort of landscape, you must be on top of the city, you must be on top of the places that you are, and sort of anticipate things. I think that pattern recognition is a critical aspect to consider when it comes to street photography. Just knowing and predicting certain things that will happen in front of you just by studying human behavior and nature itself and the connection between everything. You know, everything in the city can become very predictable the more that you walk and the more that you're on the block and you sort of just observe, right? To be a bystander requires this keen eye and observation skill, your visual acuity to things. And yeah, the things around you become patterns, shapes, forms, aesthetic. And I think that actually it's just a wise way to think, where everything is angular, everything is sort of like on a grid pattern. There's like lines to everything, leading lines. Everything becomes geometric, and yeah, thinking in terms of aesthetics seems to be wise when it comes to just practicing photography in general. This is the Liberty Place Mall. I like walking through different spaces when I kind of just go for my walks. It's nice to have some like dynamics. And actually what's interesting about this mall is this, I think, sundial in the center. That's what I think this is. Not 100% sure, but that's what it seems to be. You can see a sun here in the middle. Yeah, I love this mall. I like the way that it's set up, where there's like higher elevation. You can sit up there, work on the iPad, whatever. Yeah, some places like this are they're good to just make notes of. Any public space, it seems to be good for human thriving, being around other people. My grandmother, she used to sit up there and have her lunch when she was alone after her husband died. And that's what she would do, to be around other people, sit around and have her lunch around others. It makes sense, right? When you're alone. Like me. Which is how I thrive. I thrive alone. I thrive like a when I'm distracted by others, it's a problem, right? Little things like getting a text, put your phone on airplane mode, do not disturb. Lots of things can become distractions, and recognizing what distracts you is probably critical. And yeah, subtracting things, right? Deleting more apps, staying on top of your files, delete more. Yeah, it seems deleting is good. I just deleted a bunch of files from my phone, and I need to do more culling of photos. That's why I have the iPad on me today. Just doing it slowly at my own pace. Like in general, I think it's good to just do your own thing at your own pace, where you don't have any deadlines, there's no rush. I like to publish and do things often and do as much as I can in a day. But the idea is wasting time is perhaps the best sort of use of time, and productivity is, I don't know, I think when people make productivity or like work their sort of like personality, it's not that attractive, you know. I don't want to sit around and talk about your job or like what else. It's just like there's just more to do that isn't having to do with crunching the numbers. So when I walk through the city, I'm looking ahead. I'm looking, you know, beyond. I'm looking further down the street and anticipating what's coming my way. You know, usually it's just going to be someone on the phone, whatever. But you might be surprised. Something crazy might happen, and you just always have to be ready. Have the camera on you. And look at the hands of people, right? I think studying the feet, studying the hands, and just watching the movement of feet and being in tune with the beat of the street is a good thing to consider, where, you know, it's maybe interesting to just observe details sometimes, and that's why I like this idea of setting the camera to the smallest snap focus distance and just getting close to things, where perhaps looking at the hands, the gestures, these can unlock creative sort of potential for your photography. You know, you don't always have to have the person in full stride. You know, to have dynamic compositions requires a bit more variety and a little bit more spontaneity, and perhaps an unconventional approach where you don't have to look through the viewfinder, you don't have to do the sort of conventional way of lining things up with your camera, but you can merely throw things around and just play. I think wrist straps are great. The Rico is a kendama, and yeah, just throw it around, get close. I have it set to AV mode because I like having my camera at f8. I just always like having everything kind of in focus. It's just an aesthetic choice that I like, and playing around with the way that you frame things, right? So like photograph the hand, you know, photograph the legs, right? You don't have to photograph the face, or you don't have to photograph the gestures that are most obvious, whether it's like, you know, the gaze of the person, their eyes. It could be their hand, it could be their feet, it could be other subjects, you know, that are more interesting to you. Anything that catches your eye, whatever is peculiar at that moment in time. And yeah, just surprise yourself with what you find. You know, like I just threw the camera upside down, photographed the hand of the lady holding her smoothie, and you know, the idea is what you see isn't what you get, it's what you get is what you didn't see. So allowing the spontaneity and to follow your intuition, follow your gut, and to sort of be on your toes and to just, you know, go with the flow and let life come to you. It requires this sort of Zen-like practice where street photography essentially is like meditation, and I appreciate that for me in my life, where it grounds you, it keeps you present in the moment, where you don't need to worry about the future, the past. You know, the future is here, right? The future of photography is here, baby. And yeah, to just embrace the new approaches, you know, embrace the smaller technology, embrace the new cameras, to not be nostalgic for the past, to embrace the now, seems to be wise when it comes to making art. I believe in this new digital future, digital galleries, digital spaces. Perhaps physical spaces aren't as interesting. I've never liked going into the galleries, so if I don't like it, why would I want to do it? That's kind of my sort of thought. where, yeah, I just want to do things that I enjoy, that I like. And I think just doing that and following your passion and just being insanely passionate about whatever it is that you're doing is critical, where photography is my lifeblood. This is my passion. I've got it in my blood, right? I've got the blood of Achilles rushing through my veins. I've got a lust for life, a lust for battle unlike anything. And I'm ready to go, you know? This is the most silly form of art, right? Photography on the streets, making candid pictures. If someone were to observe what I'm doing right now and not understand it, it's like, it's just funny. It's like, you gotta kind of liberate yourself and not think of others' perspective, right? I think a lot of the times people get caught up in like the fear of rejection, the fear of confrontation, the fear of what others will think, and you know, just be weird, be you, be yourself. And I think every street photographer is typically a little bit crazy, because the act of photographing people candidly is just it's just different. It's not something that others that aren't in the know will comprehend, but perhaps it's fine. It's like your little passion project that keeps you afloating through the chaos, to go head first with courage and curiosity. No fear, right? We can't have fear when it comes to this kind of thing. Street photography requires this audacious attitude, and I believe to not be so caught up in what might happen, but to just let it happen. And yeah, just let the chips fall as they may, basically. That's kind of the general gist, I believe. Let the chips fall as they may. Be on the street, this is where I stay. Photographing with the 28 and the 40. But to get caught up in a focal length is a very stupid thing, you know. Don't worry about the focal length choice. Just kind of play with whatever cameras you got. And yeah, don't get too caught up in that sort of thing. You know, just work with what you have now. Don't worry about the gear. All this kind of bullshit is overrated a lot of the times. You know, I'm not a gear guy whatsoever. I just use it, you know. It's like, it's a tool to make the work. Yeah, anyone that's obsessed with gear is and then my favorite, not a trustworthy voice to listen to. Anyone that's talking about, you know, the gear too much, you know, don't listen to that guy. You know, everyone's just trying to sell you something. The thing with these videos and the thing with the way I approach things is like, I'm not trying to sell you nothing. I'm doing this because it's something that actually makes me happy. Like, genuinely vlogging is just actually, it's just like a part of my day-to-day routine now that makes me happy, just doing it for the sake of doing it. And I think to embrace that is critical in terms of creative thriving, where you're not expecting any validation, you're not expecting this reputation or fame or monetization. To do things for the sake of doing things requires sort of dedication and passion for the thing itself. And so just recognize that, right? And embrace that. And I believe that'll help you with your creative thriving. Yeah, the kendama, it seems to be a good way to practice your sort of mind-body connection when it comes to street photography. Take a hike. Walking as much as humanly possible. Say hey, say hi, say hello, smile at your neighbors. Yeah, it's good. It's a good thing to just smile. It's a good thing to be joyful, and I think spreading more joy is a good thing. It's a beautiful thing. You know, we're all merely energy. To spread more good energy will allow more thriving amongst our fellow neighbors. And yeah, life's too short to be negative, and to actually be able to suppress your anger. If you ever feel like someone slights you, perhaps it's wise to just not say anything, you know, just like close your mouth, shut up, just stoically stare and watch them walk away. It's like nothing good will come out of these sort of petty arguments or anything that makes you feel angry. It's like you can overcome it. Just go for a walk, lift a weight or something. Like, use the energy, you know, any frustration, any anger, anything, for good and for physical productivity in a way where, yeah, maybe the most productive way of thinking about life is the more time spent outside walking and doing some sort of physical activity, some sort of physical leisure, some sort of lifting or, you know, thing that'll increase your strength. I think then everything else kind of just falls into place. The stronger we become, the better off we are. 300 Spartans. Thinking in terms of the Spartans, you know, 300 Spartans can defeat an army of thousands. So, you know, quality, another thought about quality is, yeah, maybe it's better to have 300 high quality Spartans than just thousands of Persian slaves, where it's like, what is your profession? How? Right? We don't want to be sculptors. We don't want to be photographers. We don't want to be artists. We want to be Spartans, right? So just consider your identity this way, where you're not your job. You're not what you do. You're not what you you know, what are we? How? What is your identity? Spartan.